The big news coming out of said summer kickoff press conference was the incident between Michael Chiesa and Kevin Lee. It was everywhere afterwards. SportsCenter tweeting about it, over 1 million views on their Instagram account. Everyone was talking about it. People who aren't even MMA fans were talking about it. So let's talk to Mr. Michael Chiesa about it. And he's joining us via the magic of Skype. Repping Walt Clyde Frazier. That's how we do. Respect. Let's go, Mike. I love it. And you were repping the socks, the Stance socks on Friday, right?
I was, absolutely. I was wearing my best pair of Knicks socks.
That is fresh. That is fresh. The Knicks actually just announced that Walt is going to the draft lottery tomorrow to bring them good luck. So I appreciate you doing this as well. Maybe this is a sign of good things to come tomorrow as the lottery happens.
That's why I'm wearing my Walt jersey. I was like, it's either Walt or Ewing. You know, like last time you asked if I put the hat on just because I was going on your show, and I didn't. I just happened to be wearing that hat. But today I was like, all right, I'm going to put a jersey on. I'm going on the show with Ariel. I got to pick which one. So I was like, in spirit of Walt being at the draft, I chose Walt.
You know, my second son, his name is Walter, and we call him Walt. And we chose that name partially because of Walt Clyde Frazier. That's how hardcore I am, Mike.
Ah, that's admirable.
Thank you. I appreciate it. You being kind. Okay, so we have a lot to discuss. Here we are, 72 hours later. How do you feel about this whole thing? What are your thoughts on it?
It's water under the bridge, man. It's just nothing to dwell on. You know, I've always been a pretty cool customer. I don't ever let my emotions get the best of me. So that was just totally very uncharacteristic of me. You know what I mean? That's just not the type of person I am. I'm not a hothead. So it's just water under the bridge. And, you know, Mother's Day is past. So, you know, it was so ironic that this all happened on Mother's Day weekend. So yeah, I'm not even thinking about it anymore, man. I'm just back to the task at hand. And it's all about the fight.
Do you regret it?
No, I don't regret it at all. I mean, there's an unspoken rule amongst competitors, amongst men, and I think just amongst people in general is that, you know, it's okay to talk shit. It's okay to promote fights, but you just don't bring families into it, you know, and people are saying like, oh, he didn't even say anything that bad. It's like, no, it doesn't matter. Just the fact alone that the word mom came up, and in the manner when you're saying like, oh, you better show up. I know your mom's going to be there. It's like, you know what? Yeah, you didn't say anything that bad, but guess what? You were en route to going that path, and it's not up to him to know that I'm a mama's boy, but you know, media knows, the UFC knows. I mean, for Christ's sakes, if my mom is in attendance in a fight right after I win, they have a camera on her. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, that's just my one nerve. That's my one button you can push to really get that kind of reaction out of me. So I don't regret it at all, but I know it won't happen again.
So it looked to me like he punched you, that he landed a punch. Is that the case? And did it hurt?
I didn't even know he punched me until I got backstage. Like, as they're pulling me back, I kept asking Reed, I'm like, did he punch me? Did he punch me? And I got backstage and I'm like, did he fucking punch me? They're like, yeah, dude, he socked you right in the face. And you know, look, I think it was a cheap shot, because if you look, I've gone back and watched, I look at the pictures, as I'm running up, I get grabbed by two guys, and then he just runs up unattended to, boom, and just punches me. It's not like nobody was in between us. Like, if I had run up and there was nobody, you know, intervening, he had every right to punch me in the face. But I even said before I went over there, I was like, dude, security needs to get in the middle of this. I'm about to drop this mic and run over there, you know, and sure enough, that's what happened. And you know, it's just funny that, you know, I got two guys on me and he runs up and punches me in the face. Like, I have my phone right here with the picture, and it's like, you know, it's clear as day. But, you know, I'm not going to get on this show and talk a bunch of shit about him. All I know is I didn't feel like I got punched. I didn't even know I got punched. And, you know, I think that's all I need to say. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
and we're actually showing the photo right now as you speak. So it's on the screen for those watching at home.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, even just right here, look, he is unattended to as I am just getting swamped. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter. It's whatever, dude. Okay. It happened. I got punched. It didn't even leave a mark on my face. You know, whatever. It's fine. We're going to fight in 6 weeks. And then that's the best part about it, you know, is we get to continue. We can continue where we left off on June 25th.
So they brought you to the back while the press conference continued, and then you came back out for the face-off. What did they say to you when you were in the back?
Oh, I mean, Sean immediately, they're worried about the fight. They're just like, dude, things like this can get the fight pulled. Like the commission in Oklahoma, they could see this and you guys could get fined. They could pull your fight. Like, dude, you need to chill. I'm like, dude, okay, I'm cool. You know what I mean? Like, I'm cool. That's all you had to say. Yeah, I'm not that big of a guy where I'm going to lose my temper and it's going to take me forever to get my shit together. But, it's like the second that he was like, dude, you got to chill. You could get your fight pulled. I was like, okay, I'm chilling.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I got my feet back on the ground, and that was just their main concern is they were just worried about the fight getting pulled. And, that would just be devastating. I would regret it. I would regret it if there was repercussions that involved the fight getting pulled. So I'm glad it didn't. Fuck, a lot of hype surrounding it now. Yeah. Holy crap.
Did they reprimand you? Did they like scold you for this? Because he actually said that people in the UFC told him that he did the right thing because you went, you got up first, essentially.
You know what? I never got scolded. Listen, the UFC is not going to scold either of us unless there's just like some serious repercussions. But the fact that like there was no fines, no athletic commissions were calling. Of course they didn't scold him. And of course they didn't scold me because we did, it wasn't my intention for this to happen, but we did what they wanted us to do the most, and that's promote fights. They want us to promote these fights, make them big, get some controversy swirling and stuff like that. So, of course they're not going to scold either of us. You know what I mean? It's whatever.
Well, witness the fact that on the pay-per-view, they did a little highlight thing and you guys got, a large chunk of it and they showed the whole thing. And I'm assuming it will be in the commercials and in the build up to the fight. So they may say that they're unhappy, but deep down, this was a home run. That's just a fact.
Oh yeah. We kind of stole the show, I think, and like I said, that wasn't my intention. That's just my one nerve. I think everybody's got him. You know what I mean? There's some things I could say about him that would piss him off and get him to react the same way, but I'm not even going to mention, I'm not even going to bring him up because that's not who I am. That's not the type of person I am. And it's whatever. It's the past. The fight's hyped. It's on. They're going to lock us in a freaking cage and we're going to be punching each other in the face. Like, you can't ask for much more than that.
Kevin sometimes rubs people the wrong way with his words, with, his demeanor, what he says, how he dresses. What do you make of him? How do you feel about him?
Well, truth be told, up until everything happened, I actually like Kevin. You know what I mean? We've been on the mats together at Syndicate a few years back. I've always gone up and talked to him. I remember seeing him at the Athlete Summit a couple years back, sat and talked to him. I've never, I don't even like really dislike the guy even after the fact. You know what I mean? It's just, you really like, it's like even one of my best friends, if my best friend Gary Kelly was to crack a mom joke, I'd flip out. You know what I mean? All my friends know that. We all talk shit to each other amongst the boys. We're always going back and forth, trading barbs, but we always have a rule, like, you just leave the moms and the families out of it. You know what I mean? So it's like, I really have no ill will against the guy. You just treaded water you shouldn't even be swimming in. You know what I mean? So, I know he rubs people the wrong way, and that's understandable. He's kind of got a mouth on him, but I've never had an issue with the guy. You know what I mean? That doesn't mean I'm sitting here saying like I want to be his friend.
Right.
I'm going to kick his ass on June 25th, but he's never really rubbed me the wrong way. Even when he's called me out in the past, when he's just, he said he wanted to fight me or Khabib or Nate Diaz. He's never said anything up until that point that's ever, gotten me upset.
And by the way, he actually mentioned the fact that you guys have trained together in the past when he came to see the media on Saturday, and he said that he thinks that that's why you are kind of acting this way before the fight, because you know what's coming, because he insinuated that he got the best of you when you guys trained in the past. Any truth to this?
Dude, we never even did any rounds together. We were just we were on the mats at the same time. And even if here's the thing about me, and I have no shame saying this, I am not a gym fighter. So even if I'm wrong and we have trained together, which I'm 99.9% sure, we've never gone rounds. If I remember correct, he had came to Syndicate during sparring. He was sparring with this kid, AJ Williams, really talented kickboxer, and they were doing their thing. But I'm not a gym fighter. I perform like shit in the gym. I'm always overtrained and just fatigued and cutting weight and whatever. So I'm not acting anyway because of anything in the past. You know what I mean? I'm acting this way over one thing. You talked about my mom.
Yeah.
That's what this is all about. It says nothing about the past. This is just about one thing.
What did you guys say to each other when you squared off?
Oh, you know, a lot of profanities. I told him he should take another cheap shot. You know, told him I'm just smack him around. I don't know, just a bunch of stuff, you know. We were both going back and forth. You know, emotions are running high at that point. You know what I mean? So I said a lot of things that were pretty fucking vulgar, and so did he. And, you know, of course I finished it off with a finger in the face and whatever, you know. You know, it's not one of my prouder moments, but I don't regret it. I don't know where he's coming up with this thing about us training in the past. I'm pretty much 100% sure at this point we've never ever gone live together.
Okay,
so
fair enough.
I don't know where this is all coming from.
Here's the biggest question of them all. What did your mom say about the whole thing? Have you talked to her?
Well, yeah, I talked to her, and, you know, I immediately apologized, and I was like, I'm sorry, you know what I mean? You're probably getting a lot of unwarranted attention. Here's one thing that I got to say about my mom. My mom holds a UFC record. This is a true story. My mom is the first mom to ever step foot in the UFC octagon ever. After I won tough, she was the first mom to step in post-fight. You know what I mean? She's a Hall of Famer. Can't be disrespecting a Hall of Fame mom. I mean, there's not very many of them.
Yes, that is true.
But I immediately apologized and just told her, you know, I'm sorry. And, you know, she was like, you know, I'm not upset with you because that's the same way your dad would have reacted. You know, my dad was very protective of my mom as well and stuff. So it was just kind of like, you know, I'm just kind of continuing what was passed down. You know what I mean? So she's not upset with me. She's just like, why am I getting all these Instagram followers and stuff? I'm like, look it up, Mom. You're a superstar now.
If anything, she should be flattered that you defended her honor.
She is, you know, deep down she is. She just, you know, she doesn't want to see me out getting in any trouble. That was the biggest thing. And, you know, but yeah, she was definitely like, not saying she was proud of me, but she knows why I did it. And even then it's like, you know, it's always like, do as your dad does type thing. And, you know, I did as he does. And so it's, you know, she's not upset. She should just soak it up and enjoy it.
Did your phone blow up afterwards? Were people hitting you up all over the place? Cause this thing, you know, spread everywhere.
Oh God, dude, my phone's still freaking going off, man. It's nuts. I mean, my friends are like, dude, you're on World Star's Instagram. I'm like, oh man, that's so ghetto. I've been on World Star Hip Hop. That's ghetto. But, you know, yeah, my phone's still going off, and, you know, a lot of people are just like, yeah, a lot of people don't agree with what was said and what transpired. And I feel like a lot of people are in my favor over it, and that's not what I'm looking for, man. I don't want people to be hyped about this fight because of what happened at the press conference. I want them to be hyped over the fact that you got two guys that are ranked in the top 15 in the toughest division in the world. They're going to lock horns in the main event in Oklahoma City. That's what I want people to be hyped about. I don't want them to be hyped because of some your mom joke that blew up, but, you know, it happened. And, you know, if that's what's going to get people to pay attention and get us, you know, this whole thing between him and I really is going to propel our careers. Whoever wins, well, I'm going to win fight night, but no, there is no loser at this point. You know what I mean? I'm going to get my hand raised, but this whole blow up at the press conference really kind of benefited both our careers. So, you know, that's what you need to stand out in the sport is you need to not try to be like other people. Like people always accuse Kevin of trying to be like Connor or trying to be like other people. It's like, you need to just stand out on your own and let things happen organically. That was organic. You know what I mean? Like certain things happen that will get people's attention. You know what I mean? Like look at the things Connor said that's gotten him attention. He wasn't trying to be like anybody. He's just trying to be himself. You know what I mean?
Yep.
That's what's going to get you. That's what's going to get you a fan base. That's what's going to get you attention. That's what's going to get people's eyes on you. Is just be yourself. You know what I mean? Let things happen naturally. Don't try to be like anybody else, you know?
There was a lot of bad blood on Friday at the presser, and a lot of people have said to me, like, do you think the fighters are trying too hard to sell fights because of what happened to Connor? You know, he did a great job at these press conferences talking smack. Do you think that fighters are, you know, trying to replicate that? Do you believe there's any truth to that people are going out of their comfort zone to talk smack, to be controversial because of what he did?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, a lot of people are, and you know, and I don't blame them because in this, we have such a limited window in the sport that you see Conor's success, and it goes beyond him being a great fighter. You know, I'll knack the guy. I think he's a douchebag for sure, but I will never say he's not a good fighter. That guy is elite. That guy has won 2 titles simultaneously in 2 different weight classes. His skills, they're off the charts. You know what I mean? But it's everything outside of his skills that made him Conor. You know what I mean? Like, we've had a lot of dominant champions in the UFC that haven't garnished the attention that he has, and I don't blame people for wanting to emulate what he does. You know what I mean? That's not how I want to be. I'm just going to be myself. You know what I mean? But I don't blame other people for wanting to do that. You know, you got this small window, and the more, you know, Conor makes a lot of money because he's got a lot of people watching him, and that goes beyond him just being a great fighter. You know, so I don't blame a lot of people for wanting to try to emulate that and kind of be loud and talk some shit and cross some lines. You know, I feel it's warranted.
By the way, did you go to 211 or did you go home after the presser?
I went. Me and Kevin were both at 211.
Did you see him?
I definitely attended. I brought. They had us sitting in 2 different sections, so. Okay. I kind of saw, like, towards the end of the night, I saw where he was sitting, but no, we weren't anywhere close to each other. They were very adamant about keeping us separated, and at that point, dude, I'm not going to do anything. You know what I mean? Like, it's said and done. Yeah. Like I said, I got great talent. I'm a cool customer. I always have a level head. You know, even if he was to start spouting off your mom jokes or something, I would keep my composure at this point. You know what I mean? Yeah, that was like a one hiccup. That was just like a one time, you know, thing. It was just like, I've never had anybody say something about my mom ever. You know what I mean? Like, it blew my fucking mind. It was like, what the fuck? You know, she's a saint.
No, I know.
Her name is Teresa. Teresa, you know, even if we were right next to each other or anything, like, and he started saying stuff, I would have just brushed it off at that point. But I mean, there was even a point when I was sitting on the bus waiting to leave the arena, and they're like, you go on the bus now. You know what I mean? We got to get Kevin on a shuttle to keep you guys apart. I'm sitting on the bus. All of a sudden, Chris Provino comes walking up on the bus, and he sees me. He goes, oh, nope, turn around. I'm like, dude,
you're not
jump
that
out
guy.
of my seat and do something. No, I'm not. It just happened that one time. You know what I mean?
I sympathize with you. I used to be that same way in high school. In fact, one time we were playing street hockey, and someone said a mom joke, and I took my stick and I slashed a guy in the stomach, and it was like a completely innocent thing, but he said mom, and that was my trigger. So I'm on your side. You can't say the mom word. It's just out of bounds. So I feel you. I feel you, my man.
It goes beyond it just being a mom joke. Like, a lot of people don't know this, but you know, that's not my biological mom. You know, I have a long dark history with my biological mom that's at some point will come out. I just choose not to talk about it. But my dad married my mom, who is my mom now. He married her when I was like 2. So she's been in my life since I can remember. And we're talking, this is a very fragile lady that's been through a lot. You know, she's a widow to a guy she was married to for a long time. You know, I'm very protective of her. You know what I mean? Like, it's my job now. No, now that my dad's passed on, like, it's my job to protect her and stuff. So it's just like, that's probably another reason why I flipped out. You know what I mean? Is it's like, I'm not only is she my mom and I'm protective of her, but there's a lot of history that people don't know about that makes her that much more special to me, you know? So it's not his fault. He doesn't know these other people, but it's like, it kind of makes things that's why a lot of people back home that know these things are like, dude, I'm surprised you didn't fucking kill the guy. It's still trying to or something. It's like, oh, it's just a one-time hiccup. You know, that's my lady. That's my number one. So,
wow, I had no idea. I didn't know that about you.
Yeah. Well, not a lot of people do, because I just don't talk about it. I always tell people at some point, dude, I have been through a crazy life. You know what I mean? Like, just from what you've seen on Tough, that just like scratches the surface. Like, someday I'd love to write a book or just do a sit down and just tell this crazy ride I've been on. You know what I mean? Like, there's so much to it. And, you know, she's a big part of the reason why I'm here. You know what I mean? So it's just nuts, man. It was crazy.
One last quick thing, and I appreciate you mentioning that. And it certainly explains, I mean, you don't have to explain yourself to anyone, but how can anyone, you know, criticize you now after knowing a little bit about your background, even more so than what you've told us in the past? And you've certainly been an open book. What are you expecting? I mean, I know you're confident, and you took this fight, and there was talks of Eddie Alvarez, but you win this fight on the 25th. Is it fair to expect a title shot? Do you feel like you're that much closer? Do you feel like you have to win one more after Kevin Lee? What are you expecting out of this?
I think no matter what, I'll have to win one more. Okay. This division is just locked up right now with Conor. You know, it's just very similar to 185. You know, I'm expecting one more. You know, I wouldn't be opposed. I know Khabib wants to come back in September. I'm not looking past Kevin. I'll give the kid his credit where credit. It's tough for sure. But he ain't better than me. So, but I'm not looking past him. You know, so I know that Khabib's waiting in limb for, you know, in like September. And, you know, I want to get active this year after this fight with Kevin. I'd like to fight 2 more times this year. I'd like to stay in shape. I've done a good job maintaining my relevance outside of competition, but, you know, I need to fight. I need to compete, and, you know, getting a win over Kevin is going to get me in the top 5. I'm going to continue right where I left off. So, you know, I know I'll need one more big fight after that. And at that point, dude, I'll be ready for whoever. I've been ready for whoever. I've been asking for Eddie. You know, I'm ready to fight anybody that's going to get me closer to where I need to be. So, you know, I think that one more fight after Kevin will lock in a title shot.
Great stuff, Michael. I know you didn't want to really, you know, rehash all of this, but I appreciate you coming on and saying your side of the story and talking about it all, and definitely, you know, giving us a little more info on your background really means a lot. So thank you so much. Can't wait for the fight, June 25th in OKC, main event on FS1. That's a Sunday night fight. Kevin Lee versus Michael Chiesa. It's going to be a great one. Appreciate it, my man. And thanks for wearing the jersey. And the hair is looking fresh to death as well. So just for the record, we're looking good so far.
Thank you, sir.
All right, we'll talk to you soon. There he is, Michael Chiesa, stopping by. Great stuff from him, and appreciate his candor and his willingness to talk a bit about his background as well, because I know that's not easy. So thank you very much. Can't wait for that fight on June 25th.